Have you ever wondered how the Bible's strongest man could be brought to his knees without a single sword raised against him? Today on The Faithful Scribe, we explore the paradox of Samson, an unbeatable warrior who was betrayed in the most unexpected way. By the end of this video, you'll discover how one act of deception shattered the defenses of a man seemingly protected by divine strength. Let's begin. Samson's remarkable story begins with his parents, Manoah and his wife, who endured the societal shame of infertility in ancient Israel. According to the book of Judges, an angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife, announcing she would bear a son who would begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. Here is a lesser-known detail. Some traditions propose Manoah's wife might have been from the tribe of Judah, linking Samson's destiny to royal lineage. Whether this point is factual or not, it hints at the divine orchestration surrounding Samson's birth, foreshadowing the towering power and responsibility placed upon him. From the outset, Samson was set apart as a Nazirite, obligated to abstain from wine and never cut his hair. As he grew, his feats became legendary. He killed a lion barehanded, tore city gates off their hinges, and routed Philistine soldiers single-handedly. This was no mere human talent. It was the Spirit of the Lord working mightily within him. Samson emerged as a champion, a living testament to what could happen when an individual cooperated with divine purpose. Yet behind these triumphs lay a hidden fragility. Despite his unmatched physical prowess, Samson often indulged impulses that placed him at odds with his sacred calling. He strayed into Philistine territories, courted women he was supposed to regard as enemies, and chased desires that undermined his spiritual integrity. Each victory inflated his confidence, making him believe he could handle any threat. These early compromises paved the way for the greatest betrayal of his life, at the hands of a woman named Delilah. Samson's story transcends mere muscle. It encapsulates the fine line between confidence and recklessness. His outward might masked emotional blind spots that, once probed, would leave him exposed. This paradox sets the stage for Delilah's emergence, transforming the battlefield from the open fields of conflict to the secret chambers of the heart. Scripture tells us Samson met Delilah in the valley of Sorek. Though many assume she was Philistine, her heritage remains uncertain. Some argue she might have been an Israelite or of mixed lineage. But regardless, Delilah exercised an allure that none of Samson's enemies could replicate on the battlefield. The Philistine leaders, having failed repeatedly to defeat him, noticed her strategic advantage. They offered Delilah a substantial reward if she would discover Samson's secret. Was Delilah driven by simple greed, or did deeper motives lurk within her? Perhaps she resented Samson for the chaos he inflicted upon her people. Or maybe she anticipated prestige among the Philistines if she proved instrumental in his downfall. Whatever her reasoning, she recognized that Samson's emotional openness, not his physical strength, was the true weak point. Subtly yet persistently, Delilah questioned Samson about the source of his might. He gave her misleading answers at first, each one resulting in an unsuccessful Philistine ambush. Instead of realizing her intentions, Samson returned, seduced by Delilah's appeal. He disregarded the obvious clues. Each time he divulged a false secret, the Philistines staged a futile attack. Instead of retreating, he stayed, exposing himself to the cunning manipulations that would ultimately undo him. Over time, Delilah's inquiries became more forceful, coated in emotional pleas. She questioned Samson's love, insisting that if he truly cared for her, he would share every hidden detail. The repeated demands wore him down, illustrating how unyielding persistence can break even the strongest resolve. Samson, who had slain armies, found himself trapped in an emotional snare he couldn't escape. If you're captivated by this extraordinary clash of might and cunning, subscribe to The Faithful Scribe right now. Our channel unveils the profound stories tucked away in Scripture, revealing lessons that still resonate today. Don't miss any upcoming insights into how biblical narratives continue to shape our understanding of faith and life. With relentless determination, Delilah maneuvered Samson to reveal that he had never cut his hair, adhering to a lifelong vow that secured his divine empowerment. She recognized this admission as the final key. While he slumbered, Delilah called a man to shave his hair, then signaled the Philistines. They seized Samson, who awoke too late, discovering his strength had deserted him. In a crowning act of humiliation, his eyes were gouged out, and he was chained in captivity. Why did Delilah betray Samson with such cold precision? Many believe greed was paramount. The Philistine rulers promised a fortune, ensuring her financial future. However, greed alone may not suffice. Fear could have driven her if she felt threatened by powerful leaders. Perhaps she saw Samson as a constant threat to her homeland, aligning her betrayal with national loyalty. Another possibility is personal ambition. Delivering Israel's greatest warrior to the Philistines could guarantee her a prominent standing in their society. In parallel, Samson bears responsibility for his defeat. He naively discounted Delilah's repeated attempts to extract his secret, blind to the mounting evidence of her collusion. His reckless mingling with adversaries and disregard for divine instructions laid the groundwork for disaster. This cautionary tale reminds us that the mightiest fortress can crumble if its guardian neglects looming threats. While armies had failed to conquer Samson's brute force, Delilah succeeded by targeting his emotional core. Her subtle manipulations emphasize that betrayal often infiltrates through personal relationships rather than open battle. Trust can become a weapon in the hands of those who possess the patience and cunning to exploit it. Samson's final downfall proved both tragic and redemptive. He was forced into grinding grain in prison, bereft of sight and dignity. Yet as time passed, his hair grew back, symbolizing the gradual renewal of his bond with God. Summoned to entertain the Philistine elite in a temple, Samson prayed for one last surge of divine strength. Pulling down the temple's pillars, he destroyed himself and thousands of revelers, delivering a massive blow to Israel's oppressors. Ironically, the champion who once wreaked havoc on the battlefield inflicted his greatest victory in death. This outcome underlines how he was ultimately undone, not by spears or swords, but by a betrayal born of personal entanglement. Delilah, having found the chink in Samson's emotional armor, orchestrated his capture with chilling efficiency. The lesson rings clear. The greatest threat to any formidable figure may lie closest, where emotional defenses are most easily bypassed. Here, Samson's story starkly contrasts unstoppable physical might with profound emotional vulnerability. Meanwhile, Delilah's actions reveal that cunning and patience can dismantle even the strongest advantage. Together, their tale warns readers to protect not just their external boundaries, but also their inner convictions. Let's pause to reflect on the questions that linger. Would Samson have fallen so easily had he valued wisdom as much as physical prowess? Could Delilah have chosen a different path if she weren't driven by greed, fear, or ambition? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Samson's trust was a noble trait misused, or a reckless gamble that was bound to fail? Also, how do you see Delilah's role? Was she a victim of circumstance or a calculating opportunist? We'd love to hear your perspective. In the end, Samson's downfall highlights the peril of neglecting the moral and spiritual constraints meant to guard our gifts. A vow to God, once dismissed, left him exposed to Delilah's schemes. She needed no army, for she turned his vulnerabilities against him. This cautionary narrative resonates through the centuries, reminding us that even divine favor can be squandered when we place desire above discernment. Thank you for watching The Faithful Scribe. As you weigh the paradox of Samson's undefeated record in battle, yet shocking defeat by betrayal, remember that true security lies in safeguarding our hearts as well as our strengths. Betrayal rarely arrives with a banner of war. It often tiptoes in through whispers of trust. May we learn from Samson's mistake, ensuring that our convictions, relationships, and promises remain anchored in wisdom. Until next time, stay vigilant, embrace discernment, and let the lessons of Scripture guide your path. Let's delve further into Delilah's manipulation, as it wasn't merely a one-time request for information. By repeatedly questioning Samson's love and loyalty, she cornered him psychologically. Each time he gave her a bogus secret, she staged a test that conveniently matched his fabricated story. The Philistines' failure to capture him under those ruses should have served as a blaring alarm. Yet Samson, instead of grasping the clear pattern, remained enthralled by Delilah's presence. This dynamic reveals more than simple lust. It shows how an individual, convinced of his own invincibility, can brush aside glaring evidence of danger. Another subtle point emerges in how Delilah framed her pleas. She likely appealed to Samson's pride, urging him to validate her importance by trusting her. Pride can blind even the strongest person. Samson's track record of supernatural victories may have led him to believe that no mortal could truly harm him. Delilah capitalized on that overconfidence, quietly and patiently tugging at the threads of his self-assurance until the entire fabric of his strength unraveled. Meanwhile, consider the societal pressures that could have fueled Delilah's betrayal. Living under Philistine rule might have placed her in a precarious position. Refusing the demands of her leaders could have invited harsh repercussions. Additionally, accepting their lavish offer might have promised her a life of comfort and protection, otherwise out of reach. Whenever a biblical account mentions sums of silver or gold, it underscores the potent lure of wealth in ancient cultures where most struggled for survival. Whether driven by personal ambition, fear, or patriotism, Delilah recognized that Samson's downfall was her key to a secure future. On the other hand, Samson's repeated compromise with God's instructions was just as critical to his fate. He had already violated elements of his Nazirite vow before, such as coming into contact with the carcass of a lion or joining questionable feasts. Each minor breach normalized the idea that his divine gift would remain intact regardless of his choices. This creeping sense of impunity led him to forget that his strength was contingent upon both divine favor and faithful obedience. Even more telling is the dynamic between Samson's outward victories and his inward defeats. Time and again, he triumphed against armies, relying on raw power. Yet he never fully acknowledged that a single confidant, armed only with patience and cunning, might pose a greater threat than legions of soldiers. This oversight underlines how crucial self-awareness is for anyone entrusted with special gifts. No fortress stands invincible if those guarding it grow complacent. Delilah's method also highlights a broader truth. Betrayal typically comes from close quarters. In many cases, grand fortresses fall not because of overwhelming force, but through a door unlatched from within. Her gentle questions functioned like picks at a lock, each successful feint bringing her closer to Samson's innermost secret. By the time he realized the danger, it was far too late.